the man was in charge. Right? I was Baptist, Southern Baptist. Who grew up in a church where the man was in charge? That's a lot of hands. If the man's in charge, the woman helps, which means she does a lot of work for free. Many of us grew up with this notion also that Samson is a strong and faithful. He's a leader, he's a prophet, he's a hero. And once you got old enough, your Bible studies started to make out Delilah in a certain light as well. They made her out to be some kind of treacherous wench. She tricked the hero. And far too often, far too many of us, we brought that kind of thinking about Samson, about the church, about God. We started to bring that all together into our model of what counts as leadership and what counts as appropriate gender dynamics. Far too often, the way that our churches have told these stories ends up encouraging some of that same behavior in real life, not just in the Bible. And then somewhere along life, some of us, we start to learn that Samson, maybe not that good of a guy. We start to learn other heroic men might not be so good either. Maleness itself might not be so just endemically virtuous. Some of us learn the hard way that some men misuse their strength. Some of us learn the hard way that some women, far from being predators, they are the victims of circumstances beyond their control. Delilah and her and her and her. Some of them heal, some of them become survivors, and hopefully they find places that are safe, churches that tell better stories, tell the real holy morals here, so that at least churches don't contribute to more experiences like that, and maybe they can start to clean up the world little by little. But that's enough about Samson. Let's get into Delilah. We have 3 hints about Delilah in this whole story. First of all, she was Philistine, which is where we get our modern word Palestine. Perfect place to think about men misusing and valorizing and sanctifying their pathetic strength. But specifically, Delilah is from the Valley of Noble Grapes. Your Bible would say Sorek. That's like the Israel Napa. I don't know. Did you know that one, or is that one even past you? The Valley of Sorek is where they grow some grapes in Israel. But that's the place. We don't know if Delilah just worked there. Maybe that was just her job. Maybe she grew up there, so she spent her whole life there. Maybe she drinks too much herself, and that's how she met Samson. And they found each other. We don't know. We don't know for sure. But Samson seems to have a type, and that type is whoever he can take advantage of in any circumstance, at any time. And whatever faults she might have, poor Delilah essentially is in the wrong place at the wrong time, which has happened to so many people. Second, other hints we have about Delilah. How many times have we taken one of these old classic stories and then we say that like the Hebrew meaning of someone's name and it like unlocks something about it? So let's see if that works for Delilah. Delilah is a feminine kind of form. It became a name. It's a feminine form of a Hebrew verb that means hanging down, or like dangling down. It happens all through the Bible. So Exodus talks about dangling your bucket down to get some water and pulling it up. Psalms talks about God bending down to pull us out of actually the pits of despair, Delilahing us. All sorts of things are just hanging out in the Old Testament. Open baskets of flowers. Open doors that just hang open. Paralyzed man's legs just hang there. And this one will make a lot of sense. In the Old Testament, some people's long hair just dangled down. Kind of fits in the context of this story that her name would be connected there. But the root of that, of Delilah, is Dal, D-E-A-L, the first letters of that word. Sort of means sad, low down, humiliated, depressed. So most literally, Delilah's name means her head hung down. And maybe that's a nickname. I mean, we have nicknames for Eeyore. Maybe her parents were just weird and they gave her the name hanging your head down. Maybe she was given the name long before, or maybe she was given the name because of her relationship with Samson and his long hair. But the very name Delilah in the story gives us a hint that this poor girl is struggling. That's her identity. She has been going through some hard stuff. And even if she's one of those people, even if she came from the Valley of the Noble Grapes because she's a mess, even if she has the gall to stand up to her abuser, in her very name is the call to compassion. She struggles, we respond. This is like Pigpen and the Peanuts. It's Harry Potter in the first book where he's stuck underneath the stairs, and you just reach out to him. You want to support. You want to just help. And you don't need to know the language of Hebrew to catch this, because you get it in your eyes all the time. You see it plenty. Do you see the teenager dressed weird? Yeah, you dressed weird too. They have questions about their sexuality and identity. You know, you did too. And they're just quivering with loneliness and fear. That you know. And so you can respond your heart with a call to compassion. You see the homeless guy wavering between his own sense of Samson's strength and his own tears of vulnerability for all that has happened to him that put him on the streets. It's a call to compassion. You've seen it from the exhausted mother at the grocery store trying to control and deal with 2 or 3 kids. You've seen the call to compassion in this church every time when Floyd and Andy and Jane give each other a hug on a Sunday morning. The way Jesus said it, it's more familiar to you, is to care for the least of these. The way Judges tells it is to watch out for the Delilahs of the world, because they need our help, not our judgment. The third thing we know about this woman, just about every commentator about Samson and Delilah, every movie, every piece of artwork, every song, probably most every sermon you've ever heard on her, they make her out to be the aggressor. Right? But you heard they offered her 1,100 pieces of silver. That's a lot of money. And then they go up and they say, well, she was brash. She was strident. She was bossy. Any of you women ever been called brash or bossy? Congratulations, you know? Every story you hear about Delilah, they make her out to be hypersexual, almost like this harlot took down this great man, even though you can read the story on your own, all in between what Pat read to you. There's not a single word about sex in those chapters. But for centuries, Christians and Jews, storytellers, artists, they have layered it onto her and blamed her for Samson's fault. And women, you know this tells a lot more about the storytellers than it does about her. It says a lot more about what they're saying about you than it does about you. And sure, she has her own issues like everyone, but what I'm saying is her whole life she was lied to over and over. She was taken advantage of. If you think Samson is the first guy who pulled this off and took advantage of her, you're not listening deep enough to the story. If you think it's the first woman that Samson did that to and treated her like crap, you're not listening enough to the story. She was treated terribly like everyone else in his past, probably like everyone else treated her in her past, and now the language of the story is the Spirit of the Lord came on her. Just like the Spirit of the Lord came on Samson when he ripped that lion apart, the Spirit of the Lord came upon her, not for destruction, but for hope and renewal. That's the moral of the story. Now she is empowered to stand up to him. She is no longer a victim, but a survivor. If this is getting too close, we're going to zoom out a bit. Because for all the isms and the ideologies we hear in our news today, we live in a time of Samson copycats. Tons of them out there. Samson wannabes are in all kinds of positions of power in every industry and everything. Samson wannabes lie, they abuse, they hurt people. Women please them, so they take them by the woman. Foreigners scare them, so they lash out. Power intoxicates them, so they chase it. We live in Samson times, and that's why so many of you for many years are just worn out. The good news of this story is about Delilah, because it is the Delilah age that is coming. It is the Delilah response that is coming around the corner. This story is about the downtrodden standing up. This story is about lifting up your hanging heads. This story is about bravery in the face of bullies. As powerful as Samson might have been, she found her strength, she found her heart, and as cartoonishly authoritarian as our Samsons try to be, we too have strength, we too have heart, just bubbling to come out. If there's anything clear about the Bible, I wish it was more clear. I've tried for 5 years to give you my best clarity of it. I've tried for 24 years of professional church ministry to kind of put a magnifying glass on the parts that I think kind of stand out the most. But if there's anything that just keeps coming up clear over and over in the Word, it is that God is always on the side of the ones who are being hurt. God is always on the side of the ones who are being hurt. And that means the Spirit empowers the Delilahs of our world It also means that Jesus comes to pray for the Samsons of the world, that they might work through their pain and anger. It means that Delilah is a model for the messy people who need a little courage and inspiration to step toward change. It means the church is called to stand up for those folks who maybe they don't know they had the courage yet. Maybe we can stand up for oppressed who do not know their power yet. But we can stand up for Samson ideology any and everywhere that it can creep in. And the fact that is weaved through creation, weaved through the story of the Bible, weaved through creation itself, you see it all the time. The fact that God is on the side of those who hurt means that the point of this space is to model reconciliation and grace and service and justice and growth and wholeness. That's what we're doing here, if we're doing anything. That can look a lot of different ways, but that's what we're doing here. God is always on the side of the ones being hurt, and the people of God are invited along.